Jim Chapin is best known as the originator, going back to about 1940, of the coordinated independent skills associated with jazz. Hands and feet soloing against the cymbal ride. Jim credits a portion of his development of independence to the analytical, one-hand-at-a-time approach of his teacher, Sanford Moeller, who was responsible for many of the exercises in this video. Mr. Moeller died in 1960, and Jim continued to see him up until that time. His course of study, however, was of much shorter duration, 60 lessons, 2 a week, between November of 1938 and July 1939. Quote, "I could keep you here, Jim," Moeller said, "but you're doing my system as well, if not better, than anyone I've ever seen." End of quote. This video was about hand technique. More exactly, it concerns the quest for maximum speed and power with minimum physical exertion. Often the most lightning-like single-strokers find that pulling accents out of the roar can be a problem. With this system, accenting becomes a pleasure, enhancing rather than detracting from speed and endurance. Many drummers, especially those with strong techniques, play this way consciously. Some others, who are excellent players too, have survived teachers who provided them with a veritable maze of misinformation from fairly competent to terminally hopeless. They have altered, by trial and error, their non-functional hand motions, and in fast execution can offer a good simulation of the accenting suggestions presented here. It seems that anyone who can accent well at speed must play in this manner, and finally may be able to achieve it automatically.
Hello, I'm Jim Chapin, and I'm here in your living room or in your store or in your school, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about the techniques of drumming, especially as they affect the snare drum, especially as they affect the way you approach hitting the drum. Now, I studied about a little over 50 years ago. I started studying with an old man named Sanford Moeller, very tough old man. I went to him and I said, "Here I am, Mr. Moeller, I'm ready to study with you." He says, "Well, play for me a little bit." So I played. I've been playing a year and a half. He said, "Kid, you don't know anything, do you?" Well, that was the start of a delightful friendship and a very difficult 7 months, because he really put me through the ringer. But I came out the other end. And at that time he said, "You've done it, Jim. You've done everything I've asked you and more. And I would like to say that you don't have to come back anymore." I said, "Come back every month or so, because I want to see how you're doing. But as far as you've learned the Moeller technique as well as anybody I've ever had." I said, "Thank you very much, sir." Now, this guy was the kind of a guy he made drums. He made beautiful old. In fact, the U.S. Army band still has some of his snare drums. And he took a snare drum one day in the late 20s, and about 30th of June, I guess, and he walked to Boston and marched in the July 4th parade in Boston, and turned around and came home drumming all the way. And people said, "Why did you do that?" He says, "I love to drum and I like to walk in the country." So that's the kind of a man he was. And I'm going to show you some of the techniques. I'm going to lead into some of the techniques, I should say, that he showed me. First, I'm going to start by exploring a little bit of the French timpani and the German timpani and some other ramifications. And tell you that basically I'm a traditional grip player, but that most of my teaching is done to match grip players, and I say that, and you realize that I'm using pretty heavy sticks, and you'll say, "Why is he using those heavy sticks?" I use any stick. I use sticks twice as heavy as this sometimes. I use sticks that are like little pencils. If I'm playing with a piano trio, the stick has no significance. When people say, "Practice with the stick you play with," I would say, "Which stick is that?" Today I'm playing with one stick, tomorrow I'll be playing with another. So these are moderately heavy, but they're not extraordinarily heavy. They're like I could play a street job with this, or I could play a rock job. I wouldn't want to play a jazz job because they're a little too heavy. The first thing was the old French timpani method. Presuppose that you're going to use a lot of fingers because you're rolling across between the thumb and the forefinger, and you're playing pretty much parallel. The sticks are parallel. They're not an angle like this. And accents are made sort of with a little sort of a squeeze and a push. So you're rolling across the forefingers like this. This has one great advantage. It's right in front of you, and singles are done very well this way because your fingers are right under the thumb, and you can play fairly rapidly this way. I don't play very well that way, but it's part of my technique and part of the thing I'm still learning. Now, you would say that this had a lot to do with fingers. I mean, these fingers in under the thumb are working quite significantly. But in the German timpani method, which means that the hands are on top, like this, you're working more from wrist pronation, even though the fingers can enter into it very conveniently at certain times. For instance, now my fingers are working. Here they're not. See, the accent here is also kind of a little push. And the sticks, instead of being parallel, are at sort of a 45-degree angle. Almost all snare drum teachers who came from the symphonic school play or teach this way because it's very accurate. You're right you're pointed at the drum. The sticks are played with a kind of a little severe kind of a push accent. But the disadvantage of this is that you have to change it to go fast. You can't do this very fast. You can't do this very fast. What you have to do, and what all players do, even if they don't know about it, is change from this. And watch, there's a subtle change going to take place now. Right here. See, from this, 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. I changed. Watch this wrist right here. Now watch the change. Watch it now again. Now watch it. Obviously that's going to go faster because I'm only making one motion. Same over here. I can't do that fast. Most people do this automatically. They may think they play this way. They think they play with the German timpani method, but right here they're going to change. Otherwise, they don't get fast. They become like their arms become pistons. They don't get that relaxation that I'm getting here. Now, what am I doing that's so different? Well, instead of this, I'm making a little flick with my wrist here, like that. That means I've started a sequence of beats. I'm not going 1 1 1 1. I'm going 1 1. Now watch the difference again. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Now watch the motion here. 3 motions or 1 motion. Or this. See the motion difference now? Or this. Now remember, I don't play match grip. I play traditional grip. The motion there is not 1 1 1 1 1 1, but this. That motion. If I was going to do this and teach it in the way Moeller taught it, I would say, imagine you've got heavy crankcase grease on the tips of these fingers. And you're going to shake it off at the ground. This is with the traditional hold now. It's not a push like this. This is a push. So my 3 hits would be just a loud tap and 2 other things. Now, Moeller called this the downstroke, in that the hand was going down. Don't confuse this with other nomenclatures when people say this is a downstroke and this is an upstroke. It is, but in the Moeller lexicon, in the nomenclature of the Moeller system, this was a downstroke, this is a downstroke. Now, I'll show you what the upstroke was. Here's the downstroke, and then there's a tap. This is in triplets. I'm dealing in triplets because it's the easiest hand-to-hand motion. Now let me take that apart. See that one motion in the right hand? One motion, but 3 hits. So I'm hitting this whipping stroke, then a tap almost occurs. Then I have to get this stick in this position again to make that whipping stroke. So I hit going away. This is what he called the upstroke. Down, tap, up. Down, tap, up. Down, tap, up. Now you want to notice something. You don't see this. You're not seeing down. Because it's easier. You can do it this way. I can do it this way out of the German timpani method. But it doesn't have the freedom it has out in here. See that one motion? It's much harder to do this. One, but this is easy. Same over here. Here's the traditional left hand. Down, tap, hit going away. Hit going towards the pad, a tap, and then hit going away. Notice after that whipping stroke, I'm accepting a rebound. So that now if we do it together, I'm hitting 2 downstrokes, Moeller downstrokes. This doesn't mean you have to suspend your idea of what a downstroke and an upstroke is if you heard it from other people. This is, you're speaking about the Moeller naming of these things. This is a whipping stroke, it's a downstroke. I'm doing a series of downstrokes now. Now I'll turn this into a triplet. Slow it down again. Now watch this. He says this looks pretty ridiculous to take it apart to this extent, but this is how Moeller taught it. Now I'll tell you what the advantages of it is. Say you have a car, and you have a pretty nice car, and it goes up to 60 miles an hour, no problem. 60 develops a little shake. So you have a friend who's a mechanic. The mechanic says, give me that car, let me look at it. He says, there's a lot more in that car than you're getting from it now. So you give him the car, and he puts the machine on it, and he times it, and he gets the cylinders when you give it to him, the cylinders sound. You get it back up 2 days later, and you hear. Get out on the road, and you take it up to what you think is 60 miles an hour. You look down at the speedometer, your foot's been in the same place. You haven't changed anything except the motor is now synchronized. Everything is going together. It's put together, and you're no longer working on six cylinders instead of 8. It's going like this. Not going like this anymore. You're going. So you're up to 90 miles an hour, and you look at the thing. How is that possible? Well, that's what Sanford Moeller did for me 50 years ago. Made me do this. Okay. Here's one hand at a time. Downstroke, big whip, whap. You see how I'm coming back? Coming right back to here and stopping. Now there's my arm hasn't moved after this. Tap, up, down, tap, up. Now you see I'm not coming back like this. He didn't want to see the palm of your hand. That he had that in common with another teacher named J. Burns Moore, of which I'll speak more of later. Down, tap, up. Down, tap, up. Same over here. The whipping stroke, same match grip. Now, if you could hypnotize yourself, you could almost believe when you look at this video, say, that old man's not really playing those sticks. There's a force field in here, and those sticks are just toggles. He's sticking them in the force field, and they're playing themselves. He's just holding on to them, because it's halfway true. See that one motion? That one motion starts so much. See that one little motion there? It's that little flick. Now, if I'm doing it loud, it's like throwing a ball at the ground and wanting to bounce up to the 3rd story. If I do it a little softer, it's like dribbling a basketball. If I do it quite softly, it's like flicking water off the tips of my fingers. Same over here. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's an exercise you're going to see later. Now, if anybody tells you that there's only one way to hold the drumstick, you have to look at them in disbelief, because there is no more wandering thing than the fulcrum of a handhold when you're really playing loud one time and soft another time. Now, watch just from what we talked about so far. Watch how the fulcrum has changed here now. Right here, I'm playing. The fulcrum is out in here. I'm playing in a sort of a French timpani method now in my right hand. Now, if I want to get a little louder in my right hand, look where it's changed to. I'm no longer holding it out here. I'm holding it with this finger around it, sort of like that. No longer out in here. In here. Now watch when now this is quite a bit different, though it has certain salient qualities that are the same as the Moeller system. Because there's only a few ways to accent well, and this is the best of them as far as getting a loud, strong sound and getting a continuous hit. See, what I'm doing is I'm doing somewhat the same in a sort of a French hold way. I'm getting the same kind of an accent as I got out here. It's not as satisfactory for this particular thing, because the French hold is better for single strokes and better for crescendos. Not as good not as good as for accenting as the Moeller system. But then again, here's split the difference. We're in the German timpani mode now. Now I'm doing the German timpani mode. Now inside this German timpani method, See, I'm doing it pretty purely now, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, but I can also, in spite of the fact that I'm not really out here in this other 90-degree position that I'll talk about in a minute, I'm in this 45 position, I can almost get a pretty good, by drooping my hand instead of playing with a flat hand like this. Now watch the droop, watch it, and droop in my wrist now. See, this is almost pure molar, except that it's coming up this way too much. Now molar, and also in concert with that man I talked about before, named J. Burns Moore, didn't want to see the inside of your hand. They didn't want to see that. They wanted to see the back of your hand. Now, if I'm out here, watch what happens. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing wrist pronation. I'm not doing this. I'm coming up with a forearm turn. Now watch wrist pronation. I can only get to this point. This is a symptom or symptomatic of the German tympany, that you're coming up this way, and this is what you want to see at the top. You want to see the inside of your hand. Moeller and J. Burns Moore didn't want to see that. They wanted the roll out like this, so it was forearm turning. Not this. They wanted the forearm to turn this way a little bit. Now, the reason for that is that you can only go to here. If you're holding the sticks relatively tight, you can only go to there playing German timpani. Now, watch the difference now. Watch, and I'm going to droop my wrists. I'm going to get out into here now. Now I'm playing what is essentially what Burns Moore taught, which is like a big tap, which I liken to a karate chop. Like this, boom, boom. But you're here. Now, they didn't want to see this. Watch me now. I'm in the Burns Moore tradition, but I'm playing it wrong. See where I am? I'm back in this position. I can't come out all the way because my wrists will only go this far back. However, if I do this, I can go out to infinity. See? Because I'm rolling my forearms. But I'm not way out like that. That's too far. You only come up to here, and then it works fine up to there, but then you have to roll out. You can't come up this way and then go like that, because that's as far as you can go. You can do it, but it inhibits you. But Burns Moore and Moeller, they were exponents of military drumming. As such, they really wanted you to be able to hit. Well, there's no bigger, you can get a very big hit this way. Now, the thing that happens with J. Burns Moore, though, the same thing happens with J. Burns Moore as happened when you go fast in the Germany tempo. You have to make that little adjustment. You have to bow this wrist and get that 1 for 3. This is in triplets. I'm talking about triplet, hand-to-hand triplets. I said the easiest hand-to-hand motion is a triplet. So if I'm doing this, you see when I get here, now I'm doing German timpani, but I'm not doing anything. I'm not making any of that little whipping stroke. Now when I start making the whipping stroke, it relaxes. Same thing happens out here. Burns Moore here, fine. But if you get faster, watch what it turns into. Watch what it turns. Watch the whipping stroke. Now that is, even though it starts off as Burns Moore's karate chop, turns into the Moeller downstroke, tap, down, tap, up. Now here's Burns Moore, Moeller. Again, Burns Moore. A karate chop for an accent, see? Ah, ah, ah. Now watch, I'm going to turn it and I'm going to let it assume its own identity. And its own identity is it turns into this. You can't do that long. You have to turn it into this. But the great thing about J. Burns Moore was that he knew that would happen. He didn't teach it, but he knew that would have to happen, that it would have to turn into what Moeller taught from the beginning. Remember what I said Moeller was? Is down, tap, up, down. One motion. See the difference now there? Burns Moore, Moeller. See the difference in the way the wrist is doing this, the other one's doing that. Now, soft, I could turn this, like this is, because of the position here, this is German timpani. I call it German. But I can do that little thing. I would call this a modified soft Burns-Moore. Because it's out here as opposed to this. See, this comes up like this comes up like this. See the difference? One is this, one is this. Okay, now, you can see, watch the position of my hand now. If I'm doing it very lightly, where am I? Well, I'm way out in here, in that position I talked about before. If I roll it back here, so it has some kinship with this. See, if I just roll it back, I've discovered this fairly recently, so it's not, I mean, that proves how many things you can probably discover for yourself by not being caught in what I have to say or what anybody else has to say. Think for yourself, and if somebody shows you something that's good, believe it or discard it, but examine it. Now this is basically the light hold for French timpani, but it's also, if I move the thumb over here, a light hold that I could use for German timpani. And coming over here, it's a light hold for Burns-Moore or Moeller. Right out in there. See, actually these fingers are all, I have all my fingers around it, but the main pressure points are here. Now if I get a little louder though, that's not so good. Why? Because just to hold the stick in my hand when I get louder, I have to squeeze too hard. Now, so what do? Well, I got a little more friction if I move from here back to here and let it slip along the forefinger. Now, what does that mean in French timpani? Look, how many times you've seen guys play like that? This is a little louder. It's not as delicate. It's a little louder, right? So now here, that's the typical. Actually, it's watch where in the French timpani. Here it is going across towards my body almost. Here the line is direct down here, and it's going across this crease here. But it's kind of sliding. When I do it loud, it's kind of sliding along in here, and the hold is here, almost like that. Except out here, I probably use two fingers, but it has elements of that. Think of the elements. See that finger there? Now watch it. Now I put all my fingers on it. It's not that I only use this finger, all these fingers, but the main hold is here, between here, and maybe a little reinforcement from this finger, and it slides along here. The fulcrum is no longer out here. Now it's not only changed back, it's also gone up one notch in my finger. It's gone back to here. So I got that. So now watch that. Watch it when I'm out here. Watch that same thing. My whole hand is around it, but I'm sliding along here. I'm no longer in that position where I'm flicking water off the tips of my fingers. I'm more like dribbling a basketball. Now comes the thing that's pretty funny. If stadium players, the guys that have to play with these huge against these huge amplifiers and have amplified drums themselves, but oftentimes they're not as powerful as the amplifiers for the bass and the guitars. They have to play so loud that just to hold the stick in their hand, they have to have a lot of meat on it. Otherwise, they get all kinds of calluses and everything. So you can see how stiffly I have to hold this stick to hold it out in here, right? I have to squeeze it. But when I get it up in here a little bit, not so bad. See, I've got a little friction. So on the stick, my arm is pretty loose when I do that. Here, great control. Now this is not much control at all from here. See this? But look where it is. It's way back in my hand. Moeller called this a little finger hole. Now, if you're thinking of Some of the guys that play backhanded, they're pretty much doing that too. Look, and if you're playing very loud German timpani method, right here, you would play back in here too. But out here, this is like taking a ball and trying to bounce it as high as possible. See where the stick is in my hand? Way back in here. Now, I am not going to follow this all the way in because it stings your little finger like mad if you do it right. So you do it one time, and as you're up in here, you're pulling from your little finger. You're digging your little finger into it and pulling like this. So the stick goes way back to here. Or you see, look where the handhold is. Way down in here, and I don't let it go up in there because that ruins the whole thing. So I'm because it gets it too uncontrolled. But the control goes between here, here, and here. And you see how Moeller Major used to make you do this and push down here and hold with your little finger. See how big that is? Same with the paradigm. See the accent? Now, when we're talking about the big Moeller system, or even the big Burns-Moore thing, you're doing slow. Remember what I said, how it turns into, if you do it loud enough and fast enough, it has to turn into Moeller. Because these accents only go to a certain speed, these big accents, without getting this thing going. Now, I'd like to tell you how to get into it now. One of the best ways, Moeller always said, drop your hands at your sides. Now this I'm talking about match grip now, or I could talk about traditional grip too, but this is the way you put your hands for match grip. Just put your hand up like this, hang it there. Neither like this, nor like just hanging. Not like this, but just that little bowl there. Put the stick in there like that. Put the other stick in here like this. Now think of, in the beginning, think of holding a fledgling bird in your hand. A bird that would escape if you let it fly or move around too much, but you don't want to hurt it. So you're holding the stick sort of like that. Maybe a little pinch out in here. And just try to get this feeling of throwing. Now, so one of the ways to do it, play your own triplet like this. Incidentally, Moeller didn't let you do this. Moeller went for a different thing. He went right from the beginning slow, but I kind of discarded that for a while. In fact, I didn't even do it, the big thing, for a while, many years ago, and I saw I was cheating my students, so I went back to it. But mostly, what I'm doing now, I see what they can do this way, and then if they can't do it, I go right away to this method of making every motion. Like, for instance, here's the Moeller downstroke, and then you fly back. See, I'm flying back and I don't move from here. Now, when I make the tap, here's the tap. Notice you can't see in the palm of my hand. It's this. Down, tap. Now here, watch the third hit. Down, tap, and I'm hitting a regular tap, but my hand begins to go up. That's the Moeller upstroke, not the upstroke for all seasons. It's the Moeller upstroke. Down, tap, up, and you're in this position again. down, tap, up, down. Now, a way to get this, to put the two hands together, if you don't understand it, is to kind of ghost the left hand. If you have problems doing it. And most of all, one of the most important things is look in a mirror. You really can't, sometimes you think you're playing both hands the same, and one hand will be like this. You'll have, and you're saying you can't really see it. But if you look in the mirror, you can see a lot of errors. So now here's the ghost stroke. Same over here. Now here's one of the things that Moeller did later on was to do this and then slip the other hand in. Same. Now then when you get the idea that you can do it, then here's another exercise. Or just take your own triplet and play it like this and just make the push accent the way you perhaps have been taught. Once you hear it, say, I'm not going to push for this accent, I'm going to throw for this accent. But one thing you have to remember is that if you throw for the accent and don't accept any rebound, then you're going to get this. You're not going to get it. So you have to accept the rebound. Now, one of the other things that Moeller taught, J. Burns Moore taught, George Lawrence Stone of Boston taught, he wrote Stick Control, is stop at the top. In other words, you don't do this. Or you don't do this. You start up here and you come right back up there. Now look what happens when you do the other. That's when you stop halfway up. This is what you stop at the bottom. Make two motions for every hit. This one you're making one motion for every hit. You accept the rebound, boom, back. This is called stop at the top. You don't have to make this a crusade. The only reason they did this is to get the feeling that you should get away from the drum. And they do it. So it wouldn't become a chore. They'd say do 8 or 12 like this and then just play the... Now, here's another thing that I have... You say, why this bow in here? Why not like this? Well, this is a very... You can see if I'm here, I'm hardly... I could almost play the whole Moeller and J. Burns Moore songbook with a stick tied to my wrist like this. The reason being that I very seldom, when I'm playing out in here, I do it a lot. I pronate my wrist a lot in here. But here, when I'm at this volume, I hardly come back like this at all. Why is that? Well, let me show you. If you're like this is not exactly a position of strength. You want to try this yourself, get a friend or do it yourself. Pull your hand down like this. See, when it's bent back like that, it's not that strong. But if you do this, it's like a bridge. It's like that. If you were going to get into a fight, you wouldn't come at the guy like this, would you? You'd say, come on. You know, this is a very strong position. Very strong rather than this. This is not as strong a position as this. You can get tremendous hit from this bridge-like position here. And you can't get the same hit from here. You can, and that's kind of a contradiction, because if you're right in here and you want to get more power, you would say that if I was making a whole bunch of singles, I would want to get my whole forearm into it. So I would go like this and get louder and louder, then you wouldn't do that quite as well from out here. But it's better for this. stronger for this than this. For this it might be stronger for playing every accent. Of course, you're working very hard, or because you're using forearm. But this is not as good as that. See that position? But that's kind of a contradiction, isn't it? But believe me, it works. This is far stronger than this. But not for this, because you're getting your forearms in. Forget about it. Forget about the molar system if you're only going to do singles. If you're only tapping, you can tap a variety of ways. And this French system is very good. In here, it's very good tapping. But if you're accenting, this is not as good as this. So remember that, get back, and remember that position of strength. One of the things that Moeller always talked about was utter relaxation. Now, he didn't mean that you're supposed to fall apart completely. He meant that you're supposed to sit back and make your arms hang at your sides. That you're supposed to suspend yourself from this backbone back here. That you're not having just your relaxation is rolling your shoulders, and you finally getting your arms fairly free. Now, one of the things that he always insisted upon was that your elbows, when you were playing loud, were supposed to come towards you. If I'm playing soft, I'm going to do the triplet again. Watch. I'm doing it like my elbows aren't moving. How come? Because I'm doing it soft. Now watch. I'm getting a little louder. Now if I'm really doing that heavy little finger hold. See how my elbows move? Now watch this. When I'm doing it triplet hand to hand, watch this. See the elbows move? Now here, match grip. See, the wave goes right down your arm. The thing that comes in first is your elbow. If you're doing it loud, the first thing, the elbow comes in almost into the side. Like a wave traveling right down your arm. See my elbows? Now here, not moving that much. Why? Because I'm fast and I'm lower. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple of exercises that go along with the sheets. Now this is one of the nicest exercises because it makes you do with one hand what you generally do with two. It's fairly simple. It's triplet, triplet, and then right hand triplet. And then I'll do it traditional grip. Turn it this way a little bit. That was a longer version. The motion is just Same over here, but little roll, the traditional grip. That's the first page. Now this is here's on the same page in the middle of it. Paradiddle, paradiddle. The longer version, softer. The motion is 4. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Now, then of course you have the other version, which is single strokes. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, 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 left. and the longer version of that. Motion, a nice motion. That's what helps you to build that up, is the fact that you're doing the same thing with one hand that you did with two. For instance, paradiddle, paradiddle, paradiddle. Sounds like single stroke, single stroke. Sounds like a paradiddle. Make it sound the same as a paradiddle. On the first page, you will see the downstroke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one downstroke, one down up, one series of downstrokes, one series of down ups, one series of triplets, and one series of, in this case, it's going to be 16th notes. So it's like one bar of downstrokes. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, triple, 16th. Same with the other hand. Match grip. The molar system gives you kind of feeling of a dance in midair, and because of the way your arms move and the way the sticks fly for you. All this is exercise 1 on, all it consists of is, in this case, it's 2 double paradiddles, a paradiddle, and then the same thing on the other side. So it's para, paradiddle, para, paradiddle, para. Fast it sounds. Now, again, para, paradiddle. Now, the second one is paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle. And the same thing on the other side. Etc. Now, third one is very strange because it's, a minute ago we did this. Down up, we did the down up like this. But now I'm putting a single note in the middle of it. But instead of that, now I'm going to put 2 notes in the middle of it. See, there's a down up, paradiddle, down, up, paradiddle. Slower now. Here's another one, the fourth one, is an exercise. It's also a paradiddle diddle, but it's kind of strange because you're doing 4 notes on one side. Paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle. And watch this. This really shows you where the dance in midair comes from, because you're going up slowly, watching this other side. These exercises are designed to show you the intricacies of the molar system and the way it feels good. It makes you feel so good to do these. See, you have a feeling of accomplishment, I think. Now, so far it has been mostly a dance in midair with the triplets and the paradiddles. But this is another face of it. Instead of, you've been kind of playing into the drum and getting away from the drum. This is as though you were pulling the sound out of the drum. And the reason for this, I'll show you in a minute. It's kind of a two-edged sword. You're playing like this, and then suddenly, and inside of it goes zhup, and pull something out of it. And this is the way it works. Moeller devised he saw that most of the guys that really had great open rolls didn't dig into the drum like this. They dug into the drum in a funny way. They'd kind of hit, they'd get away from it. And one of the exercises they did to try and get the roll even was to make the secondary louder than the first, so that when they finally, but their final result wouldn't be what it'd be. So they tried to get the secondary louder than the first, so they do. The way he described it is, imagine the pad is hot, and the first time you touch it, you have water on your finger, it doesn't hurt you, but the second time, ow, you know. Now, this can be done several different ways. It can be done like this, it can be done up, down, or it can be done perfectly valid things, but they're not so good for this particular double stroke roll. You know what I'm doing now? I hold the stick loosely, hit it once, then imagine the pad is hot. Ow! The secondary. So when you get here, you got a pretty powerful open roll. Hear the secondary? Now here's another way to do it. Another way. Play a shuffle with one hand, kind of pulling out. Now those three give you a pretty good shot at an open roll. Of course, for years I tried to make a buzz roll. This is where Moeller kind of screwed me up in a way. I tried to make a buzz roll in that same strong position. I could get a good buzz in the right hand, but the left hand eluded me. I'd get kind of a cut-off buzz, and I realized that this strong position, perfect for tapping. See what I mean? This curve here, perfect for tapping. Wasn't so hot for the crush roll. So if I go from a crush roll into an open roll, I weaken this hand for the crush roll. And watch it, because I can buzz this way. However, I can't. Very difficult for me to make double strokes. You can't make such good double strokes that way. But it's very good for the crush. So I crush this way. Weak left hand. Now watch what I change. See how it's weakened now? Now it's because it's bent back like this. Now I'm strong again. Back weak again. Strong again. Okay. So much for the double stroke now. Now let's do three. Same thing. Wet finger. Ow! Third time the water burns off. See? Now, 4. Do 5 if I wanted to, but I won't do that. I'll do 6. See? See that? Now here's what happens. I involve my whole arm at that last minute. And when I hit that hit, this is stiff for just that second. The pullouts have a great function in this next series of exercises, the roughs. Now, first of all, I'm just going to do the double stroke that I did before, like the open roll, and turn it into 3-stroke roughs. Same thing, 4-stroke rough. And 5-stroke rough, you do 3 on each hand. And this is the 5-stroke rough also, but in binary time rather than in 3. Now, the next is a 7-stroke rough, and you do 4 on each hand. Okay. Now, if you go any further, you could do 6 on each hand, but I'm only going to do 5, so it'll be a 9-stroke rough. Be parts of the triplets. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Now I can add that extra missing note and do 6 and add 5 in the middle, making 11. I'd like to discuss now the various hand holds. I've already talked about them, but there's a lot of little ramifications, a lot of little intricacies that it's good to explore, so you don't get the idea that you have to do it my way necessarily, everything this way, everything that any teacher says. You don't have to do anything that you don't feel correct in. If somebody can do it better than you can do it, you better learn that way. That's what happened to me. But I have certain things that I've discovered through the years. For instance, a position, a large part of it consists of what the position of the forefinger is and the position of the thumb. Now, if I'm playing a fast tempo, I might do one of two things. I might play with a kind of a pinch up in here and kind of a fake cymbal beat. Or I might play with what I call a short thumb, which is like this, very short thumb, or I might play with a long thumb, which is way up in here. Depends on. Now, both of these I do with a curled forefinger. But this one, the long one, has more support from this finger back here. But this one, for instance, now here's another one with the tip with a short thumb and the very tip of the finger, and I'm digging in. I have all these 3 fingers on it. I'm dropping and picking it up. Now there's no curled forefinger on this. Here there is. Now, only trouble with the curled forefinger is if it's too tight, then it tightens you up in here. You can do any of these things that I've talked about. This is, for instance, here it is. Here's that light hold out in here that I told you about in the French grip. Here it goes through the German grip. Here it is in here. It's all out in the tips of the finger. But you can also do this with a curled forefinger. See, I curl the forefinger now. But if you curl the forefinger too tight, the tendency is to squeeze. So you make sure that if you do curl the forefinger, I'm not curling the forefinger at all when I'm doing this, but watch the change now. See me curl the forefinger there, like this? Now watch the myriad positions that a thumb goes through in just the molar, just the right-hand molar thing. Let me see if I can do it now. If I'm here, and I'm in the kind of the middle ground. So I'm in the middle of this thumb. It's sort of on the side. But if I go a little faster, the tendency is for me to close this up a little bit. I'm squeezing out and holding it in here with this kind of curled around it. But I'm hitting it on the outside of the thumb here. There's many nuances, of course, to all these holes. I'd like to explore some of the major ones that happen in my playing. Now, when anybody, as I mentioned earlier, when anybody tells you there's only one way to hold the stick, I would question that very severely, because even inside the molar thing, look how many different ways I'm holding just my thumb position and my finger position in the right hand. Now, if I'm doing it light, I'm down in here. But if I do it faster, I'm in the middle of my thumb now, right in the middle of my thumb. But if I do it faster, I come over towards the outside of my thumb. Watch. See, I'm on the outside of my thumb. Now, when I get here, and I'm doing this hold in the middle of my hand, these middle two fingers, where I'm pressing down here, I'm right at the base of my thumb, not way out here, not at this part, but in this part of my thumb. Now watch what happens to my thumb when I'm playing in this little finger hold. My thumb is hardly on at all, just as a sideboard, kind of holding it from going up into there. So it's kind of the extreme inside of my thumb and way back down here. So my thumb wanders all over the stick, as does my forefinger. Now some people, I don't do it very much myself, some people curl their forefinger quite a bit. I do it at certain times. I do it quite a bit when I'm playing really fast tempo. But sometimes I play with the short thumb this way, with the tip of the thumb dug in. Sometimes I play with the long thumb. Sometimes, if I'm playing really fast tempos and I'm doing a fake, I'm playing on that same kind of outside of the thumb when I'm doing the fake. This stick is a little bit heavier for that kind of. See, now I'm way on the outside of the thumb. Now watch my forefinger when I'm playing fast tempos with the short thumb or the long thumb. Curled forefinger. Now I can play it here with the curled forefinger. So there's a lot of variation. Sometimes I slide along my forefinger. Sometimes I'm pinching up in here. Sometimes the forefinger is being hit this way, and my thumb is holding it up in there. So there's a lot of variation in the hand holds. Now look at the left hand, for instance. Not that many variations in the left hand traditionally. Of course, all these same things hold true for the left hand if you're playing match grip. And you can see I'm kind of inside that thumb there. Now I'm doing the kind of pinch there, and now I'm doing the long thumb and the roll curled forefinger. But here's about the only changes that take place. My hand is not like this. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this. Now where does the shock come? The shock comes not across these bones here that are badly covered, but down in this fleshy part. I already explained that tapping, this is far better than this, and of course it's great for those quick double strokes, but not for the buzz. The buzz comes out in here. That's the only time I change from this, because this tapping is fantastic. Now everybody says, oh, you have to keep a firm fulcrum in your left hand. Look how unfirm that fulcrum can be. Even, of course, when I'm accenting, I have to hold it in there. So this finger never goes out there except a little bit when I'm doing the open buzz, the Morello thing, or when I'm doing the crush roll. But here, I never play like this. That finger's always over there. Now, I know some guys that play very well with the finger off like that, but I don't like to get calluses in here. And this when you play across this bone, you get a lot of calluses there if you're playing loud. However, I can play very loud this way because the shock is coming down in here. The motion. The shock, where the shock comes right down in there, in that fleshy part. All right, now, there's so many different parts to drumming that you can spend your whole life just working on technique. But that's not the way to really do it. Some of the greatest drummers in the world can never do this type of thing, but they can play music. Their concentration has been on playing music in themselves in relation to other musicians. And some of them, their technique is geared to sounding good, so there's no sense in becoming a technical giant if you're not also a musical giant, if you don't get some kind of musical thing going also. The best players, some of the best players that I know really can't play the drums well, but they play music superlatively well. So think in those terms, besides beating on the pad and saying, boy, how fast can I do singles, and how is my independence and all that. Think in terms of how do you relate to other musicians? How does it feel to them when you play? Do you make them happy? Do they make you happy? Is it a happy relationship, an interrelationship? I want to thank you very much for having me in your home or wherever.